Morning, everybody. The continuation of the meeting started Tuesday, the 9th of June, in which we dealt with Article 1, to elect a moderator. And since it's common practice to come below the moderator, that worthy person to step aside, and I have taken the job for the duration. And I'm going to say I'm immune to your hatred, but I'm really deeply sensitive. So I'm just going to say I feel as FDR did about the billionaires. I welcome. So, I will give this meeting over to the people that really run the town for some business of interest to you people more than me, and then I will come back to you at Article 3.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Ready for town meeting?
Okay.
And here we go, I'm ready for it to be over. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here. I'm the town clerk, April Thibodeau, for anybody who hasn't met me. Let's start out, we're gonna do the Pledge of Allegiance here. We get started. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I'm just going to quickly introduce the rest of the staff. We have Edie Greenlee Hodgson at the back for municipal evening. Ashley Murray, our tireless treasurer and tax collector. Up on the stage, our select board, Donna Curry is the chair, and Nikki Johnson and Ken Lynch are the members. Couple quick public service announcements. Fire exits are in the front and the back here, up these stairs around the corner. The bathrooms are upstairs and the back. And we have coffee and muffins up front. Later on, the fire station's gonna have some lunch snacks. When we get out, it'll be great. So help yourself. I made the muffins, don't expect much. I'm not kidding, many of them. So I'm now gonna kick off the work here, just reading the introduction and the first two articles that we already voted on back on June 9th. I'll let you guys know the results. So to Amos Greenlee, I'm the constable of the town of Westport Island in the county of England, state of Maine. In the name of the state of Maine, you are hereby required to notify and warn the inhabitants of the town of Westport Island and said county and state qualified by law to vote in town affairs to assemble at the town hall in said town on Tuesday, the 9th of June, 2026, at 7:50 a.m. Then and there to act on Article 1. The polls for voting on Article 2, which is provided here for information only and is not part of the warrant, shall be open at 8 a.m. and will close at 8 p.m. And to notify and warn said inhabitants to reconvene at the Westport Island Town Hall in said town on Saturday, 20th day of the 2026 AD at 10 a.m. And then in there to act on Article 3 through 54 as set out below to which. Actually 55, because in those numbers. So as the intro just stated, Articles 1 and 2 have already been voted on back on June 9th, and I'm now going to read the results of those votes. So the first one was to choose a moderator to preside at said meeting. And because like most towns, we break our meeting into two parts. The moderator has to be elected the morning of June 9th before the secret ballot election begins. So at 7:50 a.m., all of us there, we are a grand total of 4 of us, elected Meg Skidmore to moderate that election. And then she very quickly nominated, Chris Cooper as her deputy, so he can do the job today. Article 2, this is what we actually voted on at the polls. The polls will be open at the Westport Island Town Hall on order of the moderator voting on the following. To choose by secret ballot an RSU number 12 board of directors member for a term of 3 years. And the results of that vote are as follows. We did not have anybody actually on the ballot. So we had 256 blanks, 78 write-ins, and we did have a write-in winner with 56 votes, and that is the vote. Yeah. So I'm gonna swear Simone in. You're just gonna read this little intro out loud. Hold much, oh wait, sorry, Lord, yes. I, Simone Sigatan, do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state, so long as I shall continue a citizen thereof. I, Simone Sigatan, do swear that I will faithfully discharge to the best of my ability the duties incumbent on me as RSU Board of Directors representative of Westport Island, according to the Constitution and the law of the state. Okay, so also, on Article 2, we elected a select board member for a term of 3 years. Sherry P. Nelson got 283 votes. There were 40 blanks and 11 write-ins. Sherry, come on up.
I, Sherry Wilson, do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state, so long as I shall continue a citizen thereof. I, Sherry Nelson, do swear that I will faithfully discharge to the best of my abilities the duties incumbent on me as a select board member of Westport Island, according to the Constitution and the law of this state.
Right, and finally, the last part of Article 2, we voted on the RSU number 12 on the school budget. Do you favor approving the regional school unit number 12 budget for the upcoming school year that was adopted at the latest regional school unit budget meeting? And we had 243 yeses, 78 no's, and 11 blanks. And with that, I will turn it over to our select board.
Hi, everybody. As you know, every year we like to dedicate our annual report to a special town member that is has helped the town in many ways. And this year, we decided to dedicate it to Dave Wagner. As long as I've been on the board, she's been in contention. And this year she just went over the top. She's been instrumental in helping us look for grants to fix our lovely old town hall here that's in need of lots of TLC. But her work here in the town, as long as I've been on the board, she's been the backbone, the go-to person that just kind of supports along the way silently in her own way. So if you would please join us in thanking Gay for all her very important work and contributions she does for Westport Island. We love her, Gay.
Thank you. And thank you for letting me live here. I appreciate that. We're here because we're worried about money and we're doing the right thing, we're being involved. But what's embarrassing about being on the cover of the annual report and being recognized is that I am one of so many in this town. I look in the front row, there's Bailey, I look there, there's Jeff. It's like everybody in here puts tremendous hours into this town. And if it wasn't for that, your budget would actually be doubled. So I want to thank everybody.
Another recognition that we've chosen to do every year is the Spirit of America Award, which was an award created in the state of around 1990 to recognize somebody who gives voluntarily of our time to their community. The Spirit of America Award recognizes individuals who consistently go above and beyond the volunteer service to their community. There have been many notable recipients on Westport through the years. Do we have any past recipients with us? Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah. Thanks for your service. And there have been many notable recipients on Westport through the years, setting a very high standard for volunteerism. To join this group of esteemed citizens means that community members recognize the value and the contributions of the recipient. The Spirit of America Award winner for 2026 is a shy, quiet soul who would be mortified right now if they knew they were chosen. The contributions to this community come in a quiet, unassuming way. The sheer volume of work this person has accomplished for the town, for the community, for you, is immeasurable. We are talking hundreds of hours of physical labor and hundreds of hours of expertise with no expectation of anything in return. This year's recipient was one of the brave souls to serve on the ad hoc ordinance review committee. Their steady and calm presence and pragmatic, level-headed input was appreciated. They never forced their opinion on anyone, but if asked, would share their thoughts in a productive manner. Our recipient was the victim of extortion last year when they were told that they could not work on the old town hall until the town office was painted. Most conversations last summer started with, "Do you know how much I hate to paint?" Then they would spend another day scraping, repairing, priming, and painting. Finally, the town office was complete and the real work began here. Our honoree has had to say and has been hands-on with every aspect of saving this beloved building. Starting with a conditions assessment based on years of experience with historic building restoration, then analyzing problems, finding the root causes and offering solutions that got us on the right track to be able to save the town hall. They worked closely with the contractor last summer to ensure the structural and historic integrity was maintained. This individual spent the fall helping write grant applications and the winter rebuilding each of the windows one by one in their own shop at home. All these efforts were contributions to the community so as to maintain this gathering space for generations of Westport Islanders to come. I'm guessing that some of you have figured out by now who is going to be our Spirit of America Award winner for 2026. If not, here are a few more clues. They have lived on Westport since 2007, coming here from the Mid-South, and living in a mostly rundown cabin, which may have been a little cold early on. They went on to build a beautiful home and have been proud Westporters ever since. Community involvement is important to this individual, recognition is not. So, in the spirit of showing our appreciation without causing undue stress, I ask you to join me in a moderately loud round of applause for this year's Spirit of America Award winner, Chris Mallier. Chris, could we meet you up front, please? We got, the town proclamation, which is much more legalese than what I just wrote, but it's all on there. And a certificate for the Spirit of America Award winner. I don't know what that is, that's why I like you like us, Tracy.
These two ladies got the fun part. I'm just gonna give you just a very brief update on where we are, what you should expect today in all of these drawing articles. And I just want to say we worked really, really hard. And our budget, this culture, discretionary, which isn't very discretionary, there's built into, you'll see we have to pay for it. We've been able to keep, our increase down to 2.62%. That's our percent, budget to budget. The educational assessment went up 6%. The county tax went up 7.44%. We were able to, keep ours down low enough. So overall, in this, warrant, there should be an increase of a 4.52% increase right now, which I feel, considering the inflation rate right now, is pretty good. So let's look, oh, the other thing I do want to say is in spite of trying to keep it as low as possible, we also still wanted to make sure that we put things into our capital reserve account so that we're not in the same boat we did with that. You will see items that we're still trying to tuck money away to make sure this bill, the other bill, they're all busy bills. So let that out.
Okay. You know how we do this. You mostly know what I expect of you, which is simply a degree of stability. A great deal of brevity, please, in your remarks. April assures me that there's no good reason we shouldn't be out of here by noon.
Right?
You may have reasons, good or not. It's a long morning. I rather expect a long winding road, but, town meetings have their own life and their own purpose and their own direction. And any one of you take us down the path that we may regret or rejoice in when we get to the end of it. So, I will introduce each article by reading as much of it as you clearly need to understand the purpose. If there's a lot of legalese or a lot of supporting information, I probably won't read it unless somebody yells out, "You're not doing your job, read the damn article," and read it. The rest of you will be subject to it. So, Article 3, see if the town will vote to appropriate the following general fund 2026 revenue sources to be used toward the 26-27 budget, thereby decreasing the amount required to be raised by property taxes, and to further authorize the select board and treasurer to accept any additional revenues or funds that may be used to reduce the amount required to be raised by taxation. The total of Article 3, $338,292. The select board recommends you approve it. Someone give me a motion, please. Make a motion that we accept it.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept it as read. Is there any discussion on Article 3? Yes, sir. Kind of overall, last year our expenses went up by about 26.3%. do calculation by their taxes, you know, by all 26. I calculated this year our expenses overall, and Tommy's done a great job of keeping the costs down. But if my calculations are correct, our tax will go up by about 15% this year.
Not that we calculated,
Pardon?
not that we calculated.
What will they go up?
You don't know how much the taxes will go up. We told you what percent. I read you the percentage that we've increased, but we don't know how much your taxes will go up yet. That hasn't been decided. We don't know the number yet.
Also, honestly, what drives tax increase is spending. It's not really about the valuation of the mill rate, it's spending. So your increase is based on our budget, which is going up 4.5%.
So we should expect a 4%.
Ish. You can't say exactly, but yes, yes. It's based on spending, for sure. Your increase.
Other questions or comments, Article 3? All right, yes.
Debbie, I asked that, 12:38 Lee Road, our current name was that Dave Farming. Yeah, okay. When I first moved here about 4 years ago, the pie chart of spending was about 30, 30, 30. And now the discretionary spending has made it over 50% of that amount. So even with the RQ budget increasing and the county tax increasing, we have still seen an exponential increase. I know that's due to some things that were put off for a while that we're now investing in. But, you know, as far as the breakdown of that pie chart, it's just kind of interesting to see since 4 years ago, the discretionary spending go over 50% now. If you can speak to that.
Yeah, I can tell you this right off the top of my head, a couple things that really have done. One, every year, one of those discretionary things that really isn't discretionary is the transfer station. It went up over $10,000 this year. We don't have a whole lot of choice of that, but we call it discretionary. Another one is the snow plow contract, which went up, I believe, over $50,000. That again, if anybody want their roads plowed, we get paid for that. So those kind of expenses, we really don't have control over, but they're considered discretionary.
Another item that went up $5,000 was the health insurance for
Yeah.
Why was there such a big increase?
Ask healthcare providers that, I can't tell you, everything has gone up.
So now that line item is $105,000.
Instead of 100, yes.
Anybody else? All right, how will you vote on Article 3? In favor, raise your hands. Blue cards this year, and opposed. Article 3 is passed. 4. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $259,276 and authorize the select board to expend that sum on compensation and health insurance and payroll taxes for town employees and officials. Further authorize the treasurer to transfer any unspent funds into the administrative capital reserve account until revoked or amended. Give me a motion. Move.
Second.
Article 4 is moved and seconded. Discussion? Right there.
Can somebody tell us what is presently sitting in the administrative capital reserve account?
There isn't one, but we're gonna be creating it because there wasn't one in the past.
There is currently no capital reserve fund for this purpose. If you approve this article, it appears that one will be established for any money unspent. That will be its initial capitalization.
I think you were okay.
A new account. An old citizen, a new account. It happened. All right, any other discussion? Okay, in favor of Article 4? Opposed? 4 is passed. Article 5. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $70,500 of the town office administrative operations. And if you wish to know more about this, there's a link that you may chase down at your leisure. For now, I need a motion on Article 5, the town office administrative operations.
It's also attached to the warrant.
And it's attached to the warrant if you haven't brought your office machinery with you. That information's there, if you want the help, it will give you discussion, Article 5. Do I have a motion on Article 5? Someone needs to do the whole. Okay, very good. Discussion. All right, in favor of Article 5. Opposed? 5 passes. Article 6, to see what sum the town will vote to raise and appropriate for office equipment, the select board recommends $3,000.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded, Article 6, discussion. In favor? Against? We passed Article 6. 7. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $4,000 for archival preservation of original town records.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. I'm just guessing that Dave Wagner is in favor of this. He's voting all that. All right, anybody else want to talk about it? All right, show me your favor. And, oh, it is unanimous. Article 7. Article 8. See what sum the town will vote to raise and appropriate for the boards and committees, volunteer insurance and operating expenses. There are 5 boards or committees. The total is $4,230. Motion, please.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded, as read. Talk about it. Want to vote on that? Those in favor? Those opposed? Article 8 is passed. 9. See what sum the town will vote to raise and appropriate for a legal fund to be used on approval of the select board. And those persons recommend $30,000 be raised for that purpose.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Seeing no potential discussion, favor of it? Who wanted to talk? Okay, do it.
Have a question? What litigation is facing the town at the present time?
None. I'm hoping that we're gonna be nice enough that there will be none. We haven't had it in a couple of years. And we lowered it from 60,000 that we had a few years ago to 30,000, which is what we've had for the past few years. The majority of the money that goes to the lawyers is paying for advice for different, issues that we have. When MMA says, this is what I think, but talk to your town attorney. We have not had, any litigation, for the past 2 years, not on hold.
So will this be a reserve fund?
It, pretty much doesn't go in the capital reserve, so we do ask for it.
You set aside this reserve fund? Or will it?
No, it'll go back to service.
Spend back in general fund at the end of the year.
Yeah, back to service.
So it's just a adding on the administrative expenses.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, really. In case, sometimes we don't always know what's on the horizon or what's gonna hit us. And we can't not have that money in case we do have to use the lawyer for something.
So you have, not other accounts for unexpected expenses. And so this is just another unexpected expense. Not all money. If you don't know that you need.
We do use some every year, that is a given. We use it minimally for advice. For, when we have any kinds of questions that NNA can't answer, we probably do that several months out of the year. So it is an expense that we know we have to have, we just don't know how much, so we capped it at 30,000.
Well, how do you come up with 30,000?
We thought it was a lot better than based on what.
You had litigation, or don't try to confuse it. You had litigation.
Our last litigation case cost us $50,000 to get through. So
Why was it 15,000, you know?
our last litigation case cost $50,000 to get through. The price of that would probably be double now from when it was a few years ago. So we're asking for this money to have it to be on the safe side. We could go without it, but then if we do get into a litigation case, we're gonna have to pull monies from other accounts. We're not asking for a lot of money in any other account, so we gotta have it something.
Well, you've got other contingency accounts, we can talk about those from the top, but it's just a contingency account, if you're going to use for whatever you find you need for, if you don't have any legal expense. That's what you're talking about, not a reserve.
So,
Your question has generated more questions from some of your neighbors, background information.
Concord Junction Road, who is the council for West Rhode Island and are they paid or retained?
Perkins Thompson.
It's Perkins Thompson, we have the fellow who used to deal with Jim Castaficas has retired. So we do have a town attorney, we call him when we need him,
And we pay.
and we pay him as we go. It's not like we have a monthly retainer.
And you, and then you.
Am I safe to assume that the consulted advice from these lawyers would, in the long run, save us from litigation in the future?
Yes.
That's good.
Can I just, so you can't use contingency on something that wasn't approved. So contingency is only used if you overspend. Other than that, you would have to use surplus, which we're trying to be more transparent to say this is for this reason only and not using surplus. We typically don't use it. The only time since I've been here we did was when the phone company changed and started charging us $900 a month instead of $150. So obviously that was an unexpected rate increase. But other than that, we don't use surplus. It's, it's for an emergency, not for something we know potentially could happen because we do consult the attorneys regularly. We're just lucky that it's usually to just answer questions instead of, an actual legal case like we've had in the past.
Do we know how much was used last year from that account?
This year, close to probably 10,000. So we do use it. The year before, it might have been a little bit less, but when it comes to legal, you don't actually know what's going to come up. So we're just trying to be prepared.
Yeah, just as an example of what might happen, the planning board just recently received an application to put up a cell tower by Verizon. It generated some controversy. We heard from their attorney from New York City, and we anticipate that if it isn't resolved in an amicable and neighborly fashion, we really hope and plan that it will. This could generate some need to consult an attorney. So that's just an example.
Anything could happen.
And let's stay in age anything.
Anybody else? Anybody who hasn't spoken?
Like propose to the next.
You may propose an amendment.
Propose to be allowed to be raised, it's $15,000.
I have a motion for an amendment to reduce the requested amount to $15,000. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. We will now discuss the amendment only, 15,000 as opposed to 30. Discussion on the amendment. All right,
Lori Harvio, Fort Road, the money is for a lawyer, or to be used for a lawyer. And the next amendment says contingency expenses, other accounts, yada, yada, yada. I suppose he's suggesting we put it in a different bucket, but in a different bucket, you can use it for whatever. This is for the lawyer, and if you don't use it for the lawyer, then you don't spend it. So I don't see the harm, in they didn't did it at 30 instead of 15, in case they need it. I don't know, if anybody's contacting a lawyer for anything. But they don't talk to you for nothing.
John just mentioned something that could be an issue, and we've already said that we spent close to 10,000 just for advice and those kind of things. So if you said it 15, that doesn't leave much room for if we actually have to have a lawyer because of litigation or whatever. Just want to get that out there.
Let me ask you, do you currently have a line item for legal expenses? Because this says a legal fund to be used on approval of select board. Yes, there is an expectation in your budget of spending a certain amount of money on legal expenses. So, to article and other accounts as necessary, presumably, if you write that you could use Article 10 money for your legal expenses.
That's what we use our.
All right,
What did you just say?
you're pretty much right. Okay? About the existence of other money that could be dipped into. I will say most towns have a dedicated legal expense account for big things, just as she's talking about. Any, yes, ma'am, I hear.
I was just wondering if there is a legal account, then if there was funds left or last year not spent, can that just start rolling over?
I mean-
There's money for legal not spent last year that was rolled over into that account.
So right now, it's not set up that way. We have a lot of other accounts that are. The only reason we haven't done that is anything we don't spend goes into surplus, which kind of helps buffer everything. So once that gets built up, we can actually use surplus to cover other needs in the future. So at this time, we're still trying to get some money going into surplus. It's not usually very much by the time we get to the end of the year. It is something that we could do, but at the same time, I would hesitate to have every account have a capital because then you are not going to have a surplus. When we put it in a capital account, it can only be used on that expense. So if you make a legal account that say had $1 million and you needed something else, we still typically can't use that unless it's for legal fees only. So everything we've done, we're trying to earmark it for what it is to try to save the town in the future. But I mean, it is up to you guys. If you wanted to vote, we could put it to capital, but right now it is going into surplus, which is helpful as well.
On the amendment, for the discussion, the amendment is to make the amount 15,000 instead of 30,000 for legal fine. All right, seeing none, I'll ask for a vote. If you approve the amendment, the original motion will then stand at 15,000 instead of 30, and we'll go back to discussing the amended original motion. It will become a part of Article 9. So, those in favor of reducing the amount 30,000 to 15,000, show me your cards. I see 6 or 8, those opposed. Declare the amendment has failed. We now stand back at 30,000 for legal. Any further discussion? Anybody new on Article 9? All right. As originally moved, Article 9 at 30,000 in favor. Opposed. And Article 9 has passed. 10. See what sum the town will vote to raise and appropriate for contingent expenses and to authorize the select board to transfer funds to other accounts if necessary, and they recommend 15,000 for this account.
So moved, second.
Moved and seconded, 15,000 for contingency. Discussion? Favor? Against? Article 10 is approved. 11, see what sum the town will vote to authorize the select board to spend from surplus to pay for unanticipated expenses and emergencies. Select board recommend $20,000 be available from surplus.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Seeing no hands, let's vote. Those in favor? Opposed? Article 11 is approved. 12. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $5,870 for the last of 10 annual payments for the Swan Creek Preserve loan. Select board recommend you do so.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded to approve it. The last of 10. I remember standing here when you voted to pay the first of 10. It's indeed a long road. Any discussion on Article 12? All right, only if you're in favor. And opposed, and you will make the final payment. Article 13, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $30,000 for an assessor's agent contract for fiscal year 26-27. The select board and assessors recommend you do so.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Do this every year, assessor's agent. Presumably new construction, alterations. Okay, in favor? Again? 13 is passed. Article 14. See what sum the town will vote to raise and appropriate for the revaluation capital reserve fund for the 2027 revaluation. Select board recommend $55,000 be raised.
So moved. Second.
Real estate reval. Has to happen. Yes.
You don't seem to have the question, are there any questions on it before you go to a vote? The last one, you said that too. But what is the standing of the capital reserve account for this item? Present standing.
We're asking how much is in that account?
How much is it?
63,000.
Present capital reserve.
63,000.
And what is the total expenditure we're trying to do?
The bid was 165,750.
How
165,750.
When will the revaluation be taking place?
It's currently taking place, but it will not reflect on your tax bill until 2027.
Bill, I'm anticipating that you'll be getting notices, next spring. After they've done, we've been to the island, gone through it once, looking at projects, taking pictures. They go back and then that's where all the hard work starts taking place. And then we'll get a notification in the spring.
I had somebody visit my house months ago,
Right. Right.
last year.
Right, it's quite a process and it's gonna take until spring for them to complete. And then reflect on this.
They came for the interior. He told me he'd already done the exterior, so he came and made an appointment. And the guy who came said there were only 3 people left and they weren't gonna come again to Westport, and I was one of them. So, in fact, there were 2 and they added me on. That happened yesterday.
I'm sorry, you said that they weren't, no, so what happened, I actually spoke to Josh, our secretary general, and I asked him about that. And since we had somebody else say that somebody said that, you know, things weren't measured and that kind of thing, they will come back at some point, not for this first go through. But as they start going through their properties and things will start to come up, they're gonna have to come back.
Right, I took it that meant they've done that first round.
No, they will be coming back.
All right, who else we got? Evaluation reserve. Okay, let's see where we stand. $55,000 for reval. Favor? Opposed? Approved. Article 15. See what sum the town will vote to raise and appropriate for the annual operation and maintenance of the town office building. Select board recommends $17,300 raised for that purpose.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve it as read. See no hands? In favor?
Wait for it.
Okay.
Why is the, line item for each gone down by $1,000 in certain?
There's been heat pumps installed, so it's,
And that's
it's
what the electricity was.
exactly.
Okay. Those in favor, Article 15. Oh. Article 15 was passed. If you wish to speak to an article, get your hands up quickly and get them up high. Because the longer we wait, the more some of the neighbors will get agitated and they'll be disappointed when it turns out somebody does want to speak. So make yourself known. Article 16, see what some create for the town office building capital reserve fund. Select board recommends $1,000.
Second.
Again, moved and seconded, yes, sir.
How much you think this thing in the capital reserve?
26,000.
How much?
26,000.
What? Expected expenditure?
We know eventually we're thinking the furnace, maybe, well, no, not the furnace. We said hot water heater in the roof.
Next item.
The next known expenditures that will be coming up is a hot water heater and a roof. It is not imminent, we don't expect that we're gonna have to replace the roof this year, but within the next 5, yes. The cost of that, if we had it done this year, would be approximately $30,000. We have 26 on our account, so we're asking for $1,000 just to keep creeping that up a little bit, so when the time comes, but. Right now, as it stands, the town office building is in very good condition. I'll check the roof.
There you go. Town office capital reserve. In favor of $1,000. Opposed, $1,000. It has passed. Nearly unanimous. Article 17, see what's on the town vote to raise and appropriate for the annual operation and maintenance of the Sandy Salt Shed. Select board recommend $2,000 for this building. Give me a motion.
So moved.
Moved and seconded, $2,000, Sandy Salt Shed. See no hands, those in favor, I want to see some hands. Those opposed, 2,000 for Sandy Salt Shed. 18, see what's on the town vote to raise and appropriate for the annual operation and maintenance of the sign and flagpole site. Select board recommends $2,000 for this purpose.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded as read. Again. Discussion.
Chris?
Okay.
Oh, we got some.
That is, at road, I remember last year, I think the sign, or a few years ago, the sign came up as no cost to the town. Right, has there been any expectation in offsetting, fiscal costs of that, something like solar, it's pretty expensive, I don't know how a year.
That is in our wish list to move ahead with getting solar onto that site. We're not quite ready for it. But yes, we have that in our vision. Yeah, and we've added on to Randy's maintenance duties that site, so that's where some of this money gets spent.
Use that electricity line item, or that maintenance.
No,
It's,
no, that's just taking care of the physical spend.
if you look at the handouts,
Yeah.
on the back page of the salary, it tells you electricity and then maintenance.
Anybody else design flagpole site? The whole site, mind you, it's not just the care and feeding of the flagpole. Okay, those in favor? Those opposed? Article 18 is approved. 19, to see what sum the town will vote to raise and appropriate for the annual operation and maintenance of the town hall. Select board recommends $7,000. Keep the town hall running, and that is moved that we approve it as read. Is there discussion? None. If you're in favor of $7,000 for the town hall for the next year, tell me. And opposed. And Article 19 is passed. Article 20. To see what sum the town will vote to raise and appropriate for the town hall capital reserve fund. Select board recommend $25,000 be raised for that purpose.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. And it comes back to you.
What is the present salary capital reserve fund? Oh,
$55,000,
55,000.
55,000.
What is the additional 25,000 added to that 25?
Our anticipation is that the continued fixing of the north wall. And then we've opened up a little bit on the south wall, we found the same poor conditions over there, so. We anticipate that we're going to be using that much to continue fixing the sills and the uprights and getting the siding put back on. So the 25,000 is not even gonna come close to what it's going to cost us to do that. But it's gonna give us a little bit closer. So
55 now plus 45.
that's correct. It's nowhere near what it's going to cost to actually have the building repaired.
Do you have?
Press that.
Personality on Black Oak Way, house, Black Way, the roof on this building is about 4 years from then, it's like, I was saying that, minimum 40,000. So it's better to me, it'd be better to build a reserve and have it when you need it.
Anybody else? Okay. If you like or can accept this sum for that purpose on Article 20, raise your cards. And opposed, you pass 20. I found foundations are like teeth. If you don't have the money, don't look into it. But it will cost more than you have for one space. And roofs used to be cheap. They're not. Article 21. To see if the town will vote to authorize the municipal officers to accept a deed transfer at 644 Main Road, map 5, lot 36, from the Westport Volunteer Fire Department. Article 21 is recommended for approval by both the select board and the fire chief.
So moved. Second.
Motion to approve. Discussion? Questions? Exactly what that means? Thank you. Repeat your question? Explain what that means? Explain what it means.
Right now, the deed to the land is in the fire department's name, but the town owns the building. So for insurance purposes, it's gonna cause issues. Especially when it comes to either repairing the current town hall, fire station or doing new, whichever is determined in the future. So this came up during that discussion, when we talked to the insurance company, they said this would be the best way to resolve any conflict. And it helps the fire department get cheaper rates because they get the municipal rate.
Let me add into that, it's also a consideration when we start looking for grant monies for a fire station repair or replacement. And grants are gonna require that the property be town deeded property before they will grant us any money, so we're kind of doing this also, saving on insurance and anticipating some grant proposals coming up.
Being proactive. Yes,
That's fire chief, one of the reasons I recommend this and the next one. The fire department sits on land that was deeded by families back in the fifties. The stipulation was they donated that land so that would always stay for the fire department. I think this will honor that, because same with the Bradfords, they donated land, so we put cistern down on the south end. We will always continue to use that property as fire department property. It just makes things clear having it in the town name. So I think we honored what the intent was, but legally it makes it further weaker. So that's the international.
that chief his own self speaking. Okay,
Is it not the case that the fire department is separate 10 feet from the town?
okay, chief, it's not the case that the fire department is a separate entity from the town.
By legalese, it gets muddy. We are a quasi municipal. We're not a standalone fire department. The fire service in itself is quasi. We do take money from the town, so we're not a true separate entity, but we're not under the town itself, so we're kind of halfway. The building itself and the property therein, they are actually town owned and not the fire department. The land is not, is owned by the fire department. The land is, but we're going to turn that over to the town, making it all whole. And we're gonna honor the intent of that initial deed by keeping that land to be used by the fire department. Well, if it was donated for a specific purpose, how do you legally do that? As long as the land is used by the fire department, that honors the intent of the deed. And
So-
the deed is written.
That was also brought up, that was part of the money we spent this year with the town attorney to make sure legally we can do this.
We're not trying to pull a fast quick, trying to clean things up.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess I'm dense. The building is owned by the town, the land is owned by the fire department, so now you want the land to be owned by the town, so you're gonna transfer the deed.
Yes,
The land was given to the fire department so that they can use it as a fire department with that intent.
correct.
Will the deed, when transferred to the town, say that it's used for the purpose of the fire department?
Yes. The only thing that's gonna change is the name on it. We're keeping the deed as it was and it's just transferring it to the town with the same stipulations. If the town doesn't use it as a fire department, it will go back to that family.
Okay.
You had something?
Andrew.
You may be tense, but he was pursued. Okay. Article 21, any more discussion? All in favor? And opposed? Okay. We have dispensed with Article 21 by approving it. 22. See if the town will vote to authorize the municipal officers to accept the deed transfer of the cistern located at Main Road, map 1, lot 64, 3B, from the Westport Volunteer Fire Department, recommended by the Select Board Fire Chief.
So moved, second.
Moved and seconded, just as I read it, similar to Article 21, except it's the cistern instead of the fire department. Any discussion on this? Yep.
Yeah, that's unlike the fire department transfer, this is for the cistern itself and. the-
No. No,
The cistern.
the cistern property. So again, the town owns the cistern. We do not own the property that it is sitting at.
Okay. Says the transfer of the cistern.
It does
We are
say
transferring the
transfer of the cistern, presumably it's not something that's going to be.
the cistern property. I mean, technically, we got the land before the cistern was put in, so, I mean, it's kind of hard to word it, but technically the town already owns the cistern. You guys raised the money
Okay.
and it was put in.
An amendment to properly reflect, the cistern
If we
land.
must,
That proposed,
if we must, make your amendment.
to amend the language to say the cistern land properly reflect the intent.
No.
No, it says the transfer of the cistern located at the main road. It does not say the property itself.
You would like it, you amended, say the cistern and the lot it sits on.
If that's the intent of the,
Yeah, it's property, so I don't know how
Is that okay?
that's amended, but.
Okay,
Seconded.
I have a motion and a second. Now I get this just right, because this will matter in future litigation. Is your motion to amend, to add the words, to accept the deed transfer of the cistern property
located at main.
located at Main Road, so forth. You're just adding the word property. That's acceptable? Yes. All right. Do we need discussion on the amendment? All it does is add one word. It clarifies so that it's not just the physical cistern, but it is the property under it. Okay? Those in favor of the amendment? Those opposed? This amendment passes. We have one down, one up, so far. As amended, any discussion? All right, in favor of Article 22 as amended. Opposed? We passed Article 22. 23. See what sum the town will vote to raise and appropriate for the annual operation and maintenance of the fire station. Recommended by the select board, $17,000 be raised, maintenance of the fire station.
So, second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. In favor? And opposed? Article 23 is approved. 24. To see what sum the town will vote to raise and appropriate for the fire station capital reserve fund. Select board recommends $25,000.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded.
I have something to say, please. Any question? Yeah, I had my hand up first. This is important, okay?
Okay, let's refer for a moment. We'll come back to you. All right.
What is the size of the capital reserve on the Oklahoma?
Big problem, Myron?
And the amount in the capital reserve is 1,032,000. That includes the money that was donated from Claude Bertrand.
I'm sorry, what?
There's $1,032,000 in the fire station account. We had a Westport Island resident passed away and left like 800,000 to the town for the fire station.
I don't anticipate using that money for a truck.
No, so there's two capital accounts for fire. One of them says fire station, which is the building itself, which is the one we're doing now. This next article down is 35,000, that comes from the fire department, and that is the one they would use for a truck or other equipment that they would need. But this one is for us to either fix or replace the building.
Okay, I have to know very quickly about this. 39 years old now, we fired one and that was 30 years on the job. And fire stations now, this big building is very dangerous now. Here, all this, I had a good friend of mine who just passed away, don't know why in 30, there wasn't a fire, it's all protected to protect what's building. So it is really important that we start moving in this direction for a new station. Here, they're all built up. That's stuff. People, a lot of people who want firemen don't realize. And it's becoming aware now, there's probably realizations that are being built of these hot side, cold side, goalies not done now, the way it should be. Starting. That's all I gotta say on that. Thank you.
Fire station capital reserve is different from operating expenses or maintenance at the moment. This is for the big thing when you need it. Any other discussion? Article 24, right here.
Does anyone look into sharing services with Wisconsin?
They don't want.
Wiscasset is,
I will turn that question over to the chief who knows it's an unpleasant can of work.
What's your name, sir?
Larry Chase.
Sorry, say it again. What's your name again?
Larry Chase.
Larry Chase. Oh, but this gentleman is a registered voter in Westport Island, is that correct?
Be registered voter, yeah.
Yeah, but doesn't mean you can't talk, but there's a certain procedure.
Yeah.
If you wish to speak to this meeting, I have been alert. There's an alien. That's not the majority. In fact, I do share your non-resident status, but I can make legal. We can make you legal. If you wish to speak to this meeting, I will need a vote of 2/3 of the residents present at this meeting to authorize that. It can be done. It happens quite regularly. Would someone make a motion to allow this gentleman to speak?
So.
Second.
Move to second. Those in favor of allowing whoever the hell you're making. And then, okay, so I will take you to question on this every time. And the question was, has anyone looked into the sharing of resources? And I know what my chief thinks, and I'll bet I know what yours thinks. So have at it.
So we have talked to this past at Fire Chief Rob Bedford. There's been discussion of regionalization for decades, and it's gonna continue to go on for decades. It sounds simple, but when you get into the nuts and bolts of it, it's very difficult. But we did broach the subject with Chief Bedford and said, what would it look like if you were to take over, covering our town? And the look was non-issue. Seriously, he says, I'm having trouble covering my own town. That's the town, the state, every fire department is in. You're all hanging on. We're working together though. We started working with Wiscasset, Edgecombe and Alma for mutual aid. Because we know if something happens, we all need to work together. So that's a working together, but as far as contracting and saying, hey, it's all on you. It's just not feasible. They're not there, we're not there. And the service would go way down, not for any fault of their own. It's just they're gonna be spread thin as well. We have looked at it and it's just. No, sure it is.
If you want an example of the value of the mutual aid tax, look at the Roberts lumber fire. 27 departments, far away, right there. Right here.
And just to add to Stacy, you required to have presence on the island even if you do share your resources, so it wouldn't eliminate costs for us.
Right, yeah.
I'll also like to add that if we were to contract with Wiscasset, it would be strictly for fire services. So all of their myriad of things that our fire department does for us, like pump out wet basements and get trees out of the road and off of power lines and take care of car accidents and moving dead clear out of the road. Those aren't included. So just, putting it into perspective, our fire department does a whole lot more than fire. And that would not be the case if we contracted fire department out.
West Shore Road. I have a question regarding the ad hoc fire department committee. I'm wondering what the conclusion has come up with, understanding that there was a problem with the insurance value for Duncan Fire Station. As a homeowner, and I had to rely on the fire department, I had an active fire, I was a volunteer fire department member in town for 3 years. I wonder why we don't fix the building at some capital expense versus always looking to build a brand new building with 6 bays, et cetera.
This man lives in it, he knows.
Well, as you know, we do have an ad hoc committee studying this very situation. MMA, well, actually, 12 years ago, an engineer came in, did an evaluation. The building has significant structural failure and issues. We had him come back last year and he said the same thing. The building has significant failures and issues. So we put a committee together to investigate and explore these options. We're not done yet. We've got a lot of preliminary information. What we want to do is get to a point where we can make a full recommendation. You know, because our options are do nothing. We've done nothing. This is why we're still in the same boat. Try to fix the place or try to build new.
We keep putting capital reserves into it, but we do nothing.
Well, no, that's not entirely true. We just started the capital reserve fund, just, like 2 or 3 years ago.
Actually, just said we had over $1 million.
Yes, and then because we're not resident died, and that's what that money is specifically earmarked for, is for this, to resolve this issue. But what we're looking at is we're getting professionals, contractors, architects, builders. We're looking around at other fire stations to see what is the best path going forward. And so that we can make a full recommendation to the town and say, here's the choices, we go this way or that way. And I don't wanna get too far into the weeds because we're not fully done yet. We're seeing the recommendations leading towards a new station because the cost to fix what we have now is going to cost more. It's like any other building, you start getting into unknowns with, well, we don't know how far the damage goes. In the fire station, the floor is cracked, the walls are cracked, the roof is undersized. Part of the new station, the station was built in at least three different phases, 1962, 67, 75, and 902. It was built by cinder blocks, the first 2 stations, and the third section was built on top of cinder blocks from the middle section. There's something, I went up and looked, there's something like 9 different rooms on the bottom floor. So if you try to go from one bay to the other, you're weaving around trucks, going through, doorways and whole compartments. But we're talking that there's a lot of structural issues that when we're trying to fix that. And if we're trying to fix it, we're gonna be trying to work a station out of something that's at least half torn down for 6 months to a year. You can't possibly try to run a fire station out of something that's under construction. But we're trying to explore where we're at, what's the best place forward? And if, you know, we're hoping to, within a few months, come up with some final recommendations. To see what is the best value. The best value may be, you know, it'll be whatever the experts say that is the best way to go. But I don't know if I go.
I want to say the chief is doing a fantastic job on this, and I want to go back to the station. This is talking about people, okay, health. Okay, my dear friend. It has to be done. When you got cancer, because you're affected like that, it's not gonna be station. He's only been on the job for 18 years. He died. Dear friend of mine, that right there, caught me right in my heart. This is, we're talking people. Okay, we're talking about people. So I just want to add that, I won't dwell on any longer, but this is where I'm coming from, and where they're coming from, this is where it's all from. Thank you very much.
It's, featuring North End Road, if you look at the current station, it has some pretty big defects, including just to start with the grade. It's got the low spot, so it has significant rain. The water runs in the front of the building, it runs out the back, those runs in the back of the building, down the front of the building, or down the quarter. It's, you know, without the accident and all that. Resetting it, it's gonna be a lot, we're gonna have to figure out the fix.
You know, you can't, and be able to agree, I built full homes, I have a business on my own, and just, everybody's telling me what the problems are, those solutions. Got $1 million something in capital expenditures, and the insurance company wants to cancel the new printers, why aren't we doing anything last year? This year. We just put over money.
Well, and that's what we're doing, is because we knew this problem, and we said, we've got to start getting prepared for this. We actually started this committee last year to start exploring what the best solution will be. You know, so.
That's why I just having a discussion about the capital reserve.
Yeah.
Only there are details.
Well, unfortunately, it all ties together, and part of the capital reserve is for the fire station. And the other is, we're still running fire department, so we still have to have capital reserve in case we have those batches. You know, it's like last year, we had to replace tires, $4,000 for tires. I mean, we tried to cover most of that in the normal operating budget, but we also know that, you know, life has batches. And unfortunately, fire equipment is very expensive. I paid for it out of operating expenses, but I bought 4 sets of turnout gear, which was something like $19,000. Because every suit of every set of turnout gear is roughly $4,500. And they gave you a set of pants, the coat, helmet protector, the boot protection. So, but they have protections, they gotta have the protection. Yeah, well, you know. I'm preaching to the choir, but you don't have expensive use.
Okay, back here,
Easy Greenland question, Randy Roach, I have a comment on Mr. Chase's about having the staff to take over. If they were to take over our fire, our health insurance would go up, because right now, we're rated. What are we rated?
I'm not sure exactly sure ISO rating.
Anyway, it went down last time. We got the new fire truck, so if we were to change, our health insurance would go up, because now, Wisconsin is taking care of us, not somebody helping us.
Well, it's fun.
okay. Just a minute. I've allowed a pretty wide ranging discussion here on fire department operations, regionalization. The article before you is simply whether or not to raise 25,000 to the capital reserve fund. So if we could bring your comments back to that, I realize it's all tied into the bigger project and what will happen in the future, as to what happened last year or where we can do something that was last year. So any new questions or comments about the capital reserve? What I'm looking for, okay. Just a quick question, what's the number? How big a number do you need before you start in that line? Are you looking for a 3 mil before you start? Well, how many times do we have to keep worrying about that? I'm all for it, but
Actually, we used to have a separate account before it got mixed in. You know what our capital reserve was? This is our third year.
So our capital reserve includes the money that was donated. That's the $1 million. This is what we've strictly set aside for that. The money that we're trying to raise when we come here, the 25,000, is what the committee is trying to use to get the engineers, the architects to come in to help make the plan without having to use the $1 million for either repairing the building or the new building. And until, we don't even know what the number would be. Our next step is meeting with architects to give us an estimate of what it would be to fix the current building. Versus, an idea of what it'll cost for a new one. So we don't even have, exactly what it's going to be yet. So we're trying to do a little bit at a time just to not eat away at that $1 million. So we have something to either repair or replace, and then use this money that we're asking for to work with the professionals to guide us in the right way.
I hear the chief talk, bringing air back.
Yes.
You stayed out. All right, anybody else, capital research, yes, sir.
Gary, based on Nashville's response to that last question, my understanding, last year we raised and appropriated $50,000 for the study, to get, engineers out, the road inspection, get an architect to do sort of ordinary plan. Are you saying that money is completed and now we're getting?
No. So we didn't use very much of that. So that one was set up to go into the capital account so that if we don't spend even the 25 this year, whatever's left at the end of the year will go into the capital account to still be used to build the building. So it's not gonna go anywhere else.
So the 50 grand from last year, there's still was for that.
Part of it, yes, and it will go into most of it, yes. I can't remember exactly what we spent, but.
So the monies that we spent this past year seems fairly low out of that account because all we've really paid for so far is soils work to be done by a soil scientist. We've had RADIS work done by architectural firms to come in and educate us and show us and teach us. At some point in the near future, we will start actually contracting with engineering and an architectural firm. So that 50,000 at the end is gonna disappear quickly. We're asking for the additional 25 to boost that up. We'd like to keep the $1 million for the building, whether it's reconstructing the old one, demoing the old one, or building a new one, or using it for matching grant funds. So if we were able to go out and find some grant monies, the more money we have available for matching, the better off we're gonna be. So we're trying to keep that $1 million fairly solid. But we still know that we have these big engineering and architectural items that are going to be coming up fairly soon. There's been a lot of work done so far, but without a lot of money spent so far.
I'd like to make a motion to vote, please. Yeah, second.
I have a poorly worded motion, which I would accept, that the intention of it is to move to close debate. Yes? You make a motion to close debate. Somebody over here seconded that. So, that's where we stand. Have you heard enough? If you are in favor of closing debate, which will not harm the article in any way, we will simply stop talking about it. If you favor closing debate, don't. And if you would rather keep talking, don't. All right, we're done. Those in favor of $25,000 for the fire station capital reserve fund, get them up. Opposed? And after all that, it's unanimous. Article 25. To see what sum the town will vote to raise and appropriate for the annual operation and maintenance of Wright Landing. Select board recommend $5,000 be raised.
Second.
Moved and seconded, 5,000 for the Wright Landing. Those voting in favor? And again. And almost unanimous. Article 26. See what sum the town will vote to raise and appropriate for the Cloud Point Capital Reserve Fund. Select board recommend $500 be raised for that.
So moved.
And that moved and seconded. Discussion? I see none. Those in favor? Opposed? 26 is passed. Article 27. To see what sum the town will vote to raise and appropriate for a new capital reserve fund for the old landfill property. Select board recommends $1,000 be raised for that purpose. Another capital reserve for the old landfill.
So moved. Second.
How much is in the fund?
Nothing, it's new.
Yeah, sitting new.
There's never been a fund. And
Now, zero.
we were taken surprised by figuring out later that we actually have to maintain this whole landfill. And one of the things that it has had over the years is a lot of trees have grown up through it. And apparently that's not okay. So we need to go in and get all the trees taken out, so. And then we'll continue with it as a mowing project year after year.
If it's a cap landfill, we have to mow it annually, stay away. All right, any other discussion? Those in favor, $1,000. In paying the old landfill. Opposed? Approved. Article 28. See what sum the town will vote to raise and appropriate for maintenance of town roads and bridges. The select board and the road commissioner recommend $175,000.
So moved. Second.
Move, second, 175, roads and bridges. All right, who's in favor of that? Anybody doesn't want to get it? All like our roads and bridges, you've approved Article 28, just like that. 29, see what sum the town will vote to raise and appropriate for the paving capital reserve fund. Select board road commissioner recommend $25,000. Capital reserve for paving.
Second.
Motion seconded. Yes?
How much is in the fund?
107,000.
How much?
107,000.
Anybody else?
It seems like a lot of money.
Well, given the disparity in incomes and wealth in most many towns, some think it's a hell of a lot of money and some think it's nothing at all. Anybody else, back row?
For an example, now, the main road for 2 miles is about $525,000 a day. So $100,000, I don't give you a whole lot.
There's one opinion. $100,000 don't get you a whole lot.
That's the
Anybody else? Okay,
It appears that if you already have $100,000 in the fund, you haven't really been spending a lot of money on that particular subject.
yeah,
The capital reserve fund that we're trying to develop here, Bill, is for the beginning of the next 10-year cycle, which we anticipate to be at around 2028, 2029. So we're getting close to the end of our first 10-year cycle, which we're funding out of other funds right now. This capital reserve is into the future. So 107, 2 or 3 years from now, isn't gonna be much when it comes time to another 2 or 3 mile section of road that needs to be done. So it's a small piece of our future that we're asking for this particular fund.
not a hell of a lot of money.
It's not gonna be a lot more in 2 or 3 years either.
This is money for the future, big road projects. Yeah,
Today, coming up articles speaks to our back on the roads and needs of the roads in and of itself. Probably $750,000 and spending it on program. This appears to be somewhat of a slush fund for something that falls outside of those kind of improvements.
what you got?
This money bill is over and above the road improvement. This is for the next round. I'm trying to keep us close to the 10-year cycle. If Ridge Road or Ferry Road needs to be done, we'll be able to do it out of this fund. If you had to, but I don't like to spend money right down to nothing. We gotta have something.
All right, Article 29, paving capital reserve, $25,000. Show me your cards, if you're in favor. Put them down, show me if you're not. Approve 29. Article 30. See if the town will vote to authorize the select board to issue general obligation bonds or notes in the name of the town of Westport Island in a principal amount up to $750,000, which bonds or notes may be made callable, and to appropriate the proceeds of such bonds or notes to fund phase 4 of the town's road improvement plan, also known as the project, which includes culvert replacement, ditch work, and paving main road between Upper West Shore Road and, won't be surprised, Lower West Shore Road. And to raise and appropriate $265,000 to pay debt service on the bonds in the upcoming fiscal year. Because this is a bond issue, it requires the treasurer's financial statement, which you have. And it shows your current indebtedness and the estimated cost of the bonds that you're voting on today. So, on Article 30, believe we are. So many pages, so many articles. So much burden on honoring. Article 30. It doesn't necessarily anticipate being around in 28, 29. I mean, that's pretty hard.
There's no way out.
Hey, William, I'll never get out of this world alive. You old people know that song. You should, you better. All right, we have a motion, Article 30, thank you. And you ready to discuss that?
A question.
Yeah.
If looking at the old road guys, the Route 144 used to go right to this building, not the West Shore Road. What happened? The state apparently has decided the West Shore Road. But it used to come to this municipal building at the center of Westwood. It's called Route 144 on the map. Why isn't the state?
I wasn't around back when they maintained a walk on down there. But that was used on whatever was back over of the town to put that down. Thank you. Back long before my time. That's where it is now. We need to talk to higher up or not why that happened. Or somebody much older than me.
He's right, it used to be state aid roads, now they are state local block grants. I was in office when they changed it. I didn't like it, it made no sense to me. That's how it is.
We're right. It went to this spot because this spot had town offices.
State trying to get roads back to town, so it may get worse, but somebody will get shut.
Regarding the culvert that's for replacement, is that going to be the same size as the culvert that exists?
They'll all be smooth flows, they won't be ground up with steel like we currently have.
For the same volume?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, there's all over the water, in the outside, well, then smooth flow. Well, in the water, that's well, it's steel.
Okay, over here,
The work that's gonna be covered by $750,000 bond is phase 4, Bushy Main Road. Is the work gonna be done over the next year, or over the next 3 years, or another scale? What we've been doing, Ralph, is we've been doing the prep work, the culverts, ditching in the fall. Showing green in the June, or. So 750,000 will be paid out over that year, right, but finance over the period. Right, and as we go to the next round. Got it, thank you.
all right, shall we vote on Article 30? Bond issue, $750,000, we have all the financials there in front of you. In favor, please vote. Opposed? You've approved Article 30. 31. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $52,000 for the procurement of sand and salt fiscal year 26-27. Select board and the road commissioner recommend that and do so.
Second.
Move seconded, 52,000 sand and salt next winter. All right, in favor? And opposed? Approved. Winter is coming. Article 32, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $233,842 for snow removal services in fiscal year 26-27. And the select board and the road commissioner recommend you do this.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded, as read. No removal discussion. No. In favor? Against? Approved. Article 33, see if the town will allow the snow removal contractor to plow the health-owned preserve parking lots. Recommended by the select board. Catback estuary land cross parking lots, keep them free of snow and winter.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. Yep.
I have a two-part question, Julie Casson, 233 North End Road. Is, just the first part of the question is, does Cal pay taxes? And second of all, are we paying for it out of our expense, or are they providing us funds to help plow? Because we, living near Cloud Point, I see that, the snow plow is oftentimes not even plowing town property of the town. So I'm just curious if they're going to pay us for plowing and use our services.
Does this entity pay taxes or a contribution in lieu of taxes? And are they contributing toward this plow? Anybody got an answer?
They're tax exempt, so they do not pay taxes. And my understanding, it's not actually gonna cost us anything because the plow contract is done by mile and we don't figure the parking lots in by the mile. So it's just, an added, like, we don't get charged separately for like this parking area in the town office parking area. They just get how many. So it won't actually have an impact on cost.
Okay. Somebody else?
Yep, and report, they do pay a little bit in taxes, but this is more of a safety issue, because last winter, this man over here shoveled out his car, parked his car off the road to not impede emergency vehicles or snowplows or anything else. So it's more of a safety thing for residents than it is anything else. I see cars there all the time, year round, gets used by Lawrencetown residents. And it's the safety issue, and nothing else.
All right, questions answered. Those in favor of Article 33? All right, anybody against that? I'll say any, 33 is passed. Article 34, see what's on the town of vote to raise and appropriate the causeway maintenance capital reserve fund. Select board, road commissioner recommend 25,000 for that purpose.
So moved. Second.
Who decided is read. It's another capital reserve, causeway maintenance.
Just the, upper West Shore. Upper West Shore Colorado. Oh, really? Is it Walter that Olan's gonna be involved or not?
That I don't know, but they got you and Albert on post office. It's all included. And keep in mind, $25,000 is very small token, considering the price looks like it's about 5.5 million for all three stores.
So it's 25,000, now they have a lot of money either.
That big scam?
Your town is rich in causeway. You might be the causeway capital of Lincoln County. All right, anybody else on that? Oh, yeah, okay.
Same old question. How much do you need in reserve?
Current balance,
25,000.
25.
Last year was when we started the fund.
So you funded it for 1 year, this is the second year. Okay? Is there another one there? No? All right. Do you favor Article 34, $25,000 causeway? Party against? 34 is approved. Article 35, see what's on the council's vote to raise and appropriate the Westport Volunteer Fire Department operating expenses, training, and member stipend. Select board and the fire chief recommend $95,000 for this purpose.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded, 95,000, keep your fire department going for another year. And get you some respiratory therapy. I feel the same way, this water just doesn't do it. Okay, any discussion? I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion? No, I see none. Article 35, $95,000 for the fire department. Thank you. And opposed? You are unanimously in favor. Article 36. See what's on the town of vote to raise and appropriate for the fire department capital reserve fund. This will be used for capital projects such as firefighting, water cisterns, replacement vehicles, and so forth that would fall outside of normal operating costs. Recommended by the select board and the fire chief, $35,000 for the fire department capital reserve fund. Different from the fire department property building capital reserve fund.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded as read. $35,000. Anybody? If you approve, I want to see those cards. Put them down. Show me if you do. Approve 36. 37. See what some town will vote to raise and appropriate for the fire department to be covered by the Maine Municipal Association for workers' compensation, property and casualty insurance, and firefighter blanket accident insurance. Select board and fire chief recommend $15,000.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded, $15,000 for the insurance companies. You need your money. All right. Those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Article 38. To see what some of the town will vote to raise and appropriate for general assistance, select board recommends $5,000.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion to approve it as read and a second to that motion. Discussion. General Civic, 5,000. In favor? Opposed? Passed. 39. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $1,160 contracted services with Mid-Coast Humane for shelter services at their Edgewood campus.
So, second.
Motion second. Joe the dog. Joe the dog. Only one dog today. Any discussion? All right, in favor? Opposed? Everybody loves dogs and cats. Some don't like cats so much. 140. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $136,584 for the town's share of the Wisconsin Transfer Station operating expenses.
So moved, second.
Moved and seconded, 136,584 transfer station. Discussion. Favor? And vote. And that is passed. The see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $31,893 as requested by the Wisconsin Ambulance Service.
So moved.
Select board recommends to approve it. If moved, seconded. Discussion. Ambulance Service. In favor? No. Passed. And Article 42. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $5,000 for resident status for Westport Island residents at the Wisconsin Community Center. Select board recommend you approve this.
So moved, second.
Can I ask what exactly this entails?
What do you get for your money, select board?
Discount price when you, go to the center, to get your price and, and towards just an honors.
Just curious.
Yeah, cool.
There are residents that you got, I'm just curious, you have to count the number on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes, I have family.
Somebody has the number?
No.
And this will use it from Westport. Yeah.
Oh, I just was wondering if you were asking who was using that.
You want to show of hands of who uses it in the room?
Yeah, okay, let's try that one. Nobody has the right answer, look at our own answer. How many people here use the Wisconsin, public, what the hell? How many use it? Okay. All right, that's the number. Any other discussion?
We don't use them, should.
Yeah.
This will subsidize your fee. I don't know by how much. Did you have something like that?
No.
No, it just lies. Hey, it's not a hot day, okay? All great. I hate the meetings.
Yes.
Okay, Article 42, $5,000, resident status with the rec center. In favor? Opposed? You got it. Article 43, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $5,200 as requested by the Wisconsin Public Library. Select board recommends approval. So we got a motion. I got a second. Discussion.
Who uses the library?
All right, look, wait. This is my meeting, my. Apparently, why do you? I remember it down, many problems. Okay, who's in favor of 5,200 for the library? Yes, yes, you are. Opposed? No. Okay, you passed 43. Article 44, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $3,200 for annual animal control services for the Lincoln County Sheriff's Department. I don't think that dog's ever been arrested. He should have been. Cracking on the living room floor last night. Part of the cost of this contract is defrayed by dog licensing fees collected by the town. Select board recommend 3,200 annual animal control services.
So moved.
Moved, seconded. Favor? Opposed? Passed. Article 45. See what some of the town will vote to raise and appropriate for service organization. Select board recommends $6,350 be raised and distributed as you see in the chart in the warrant. $6,350 for 10 and 12 were the organizations most or perhaps all of which you funded in the past. Motion
Second.
and second. Discussion. Lori in favor. Oh. And Pat. Article 46. See what sum the town will vote to raise and appropriate to add to the grant matching capital reserve fund. No new project matches shall exceed $5,000 without voter approval. Select board recommend you raise $5,000 to the capital reserve fund to have money available for matching grants. If it requires money from the town to get money from elsewhere, that money be for.
So moved. Second.
And second.
40,000.
All right, you don't need me. The answer precedes the question. You should still pay me what you need. All right, Article 46. Any discussion? In favor? 46 is passed. Article 47, see if the town will authorize the select board to apply for grants and accept gifts, and agree to the terms and conditions imposed by those grants and gifts, and execute any documents related to those grants and gifts, and accept said grant and gift funds if awarded, and authorize their expenditure for the following purposes. Somebody offers money, they'll pay it. And the purposes here are listed.
So moved. Second.
Well, hold on. Any, I hear your haste, but I temper it with the need to inform your fellow voters. Any grants or gifts requiring matching funds in excess of $5,000 or containing conditions that impose additional financial or other burdens on the town will require town meeting approval to be accepted.
Yeah.
Now,
Come on. Second.
your second. Article 47, authorizing the acceptance of grants and gifts for the benefit of the town. Discussion. You want to talk about it?
Is traffic calming just not running over the flagman? What's traffic calming?
That's an
Close that.
your speed bumps.
Let's come with a favor.
Or yelling, slow down, you son of a bitch. Any other destruction? Smarmy comment, you weren't right now. We all, okay, any discussion on? Those in favor? Opposed? 47 is approved. I know category, property then. Article 48, see if the town in accordance with 36 MRSA subsection 5051 will vote that the tax list specified in 36 MRSA subsection 709 be committed for collection on or before September 1st, 2026. Setting the date for commitment. Motion,
So moved. Second.
here a second. Discussion. Merely sets the date for commitment of the amendment. All right, those in favor? September 1st, 2026. Opposed? And abstentions. 49, see if the town will vote to set October 15th, 2026 as the date when property taxes become due and payable, and to fix a rate of interest at 6.5%. The state allows 7% per annum to be charged on the unpaid amounts beginning October 16, 2026, according to state law. The date the taxes will be due will be October 15th, and property taxes will start drawing interest at 6.5% on October 16th. Motion.
Second. So moved.
Second.
Hold the second. Discussion. You and the interest that you are, yeah.
But do we have to charge all of the maximum of interest on people's property taxes that they're already struggling to pay? Is there a way to less than that? I mean, I don't understand why we would want to be at 25% of the max is 7%. I don't think that most people aren't paying their taxes because they don't want to. And this is just adding more. We have made an effort to start your complete annual man basis.
The state does set a range of allowable interest rates. Boards keep it higher when interest rates are higher because the town borrows money too. Many towns have to borrow what's called tax anticipation notes to cover unpaid taxes, such as mine. Yeah.
And if 7% is the maximum, what's the minimum?
I don't think there is a minimum.
So what, I'm just curious, to the other question, why is it 6.5%?
It's just the same as it was in the last few years. We haven't actually changed it.
Basically, it's to encourage people to pay.
Right, it's kind of a deterrent for people not to pay it. If you don't have one, then what's gonna make people actually pay their bill on time? So I mean, I understand not wanting to charge people that are struggling, but at the same time, if you don't have anything and just let them pay whenever, we're not gonna get people to pay on time. But
Anybody else on either the date or the rate? Yeah.
More of a clarifying question, I suppose. As you stated, towns have to take out tax anticipation loans. Having a 0% or too low a percentage would cause us to not be able to recoup the interest on those loans. As I understand it.
More or less. I did this for 12 years and we know people have a hard time paying, but part of the reason their taxes are up is because the town has to pay. So yeah, that's exactly, it's the financial and the moral consideration. The burden's on them, but our need to. All right, you got them out of office, you got time. Who else? Either on the date or the rate of it. I see no discussion on that. Those in favor? Opposed? And you have just done that to yourselves, like it or not. Article 50. To see if the town will vote to pursuant to state law, to set an interest rate of 2.5% to be paid on overpaid or abated taxes. You make a mistake, you pay too much. What do you call it to their attention? They gotta pay you back with interest, or if they give you an abatement because you were overvalued, you can prove it, they'll have to pay you interest on the abated amount. Motion.
So moved, second.
Moved and seconded as read, 2.5% overpaid and abated taxes. Yep.
How about what's good for the goose is good for the gander? In other words, sounds like 2.5% is a little cheap compared to the 6%. We're charging you on the other side of the coin. So.
You do know that's coming out of your pocket. Just saying.
That's gambling cost or something. They seem to be, if we could be punitive on people not able to fit in. And maybe able to do all that at some offset for the 2.5% is ridiculous.
Because this is, none of this has changed over the years, and that's pretty much standard procedure in anything that can go to there. You know, if you, on your, IRS, you know, pay Social Security, and then they find out that, to it's their mistake, they're gonna give you a lot less interest than what we pay. That's pretty much the same. And it looks,
My cost of money is that. So I'm overpaid. I don't have anything that charges me only 2.5%. So I get something more reasonable, like 4 or 5% would make sense. Not going to propose to change to 4%.
that's your money.
I have a proposed amendment to change 6.5%, or 2.5% to 4%. This will be what the town pays you for overpayment for an abated tax amount. Take your 2.5% to 4%. Is there a second? I don't very often need to say this, but motion dies for lack of a second. We are back to the main motion then. Interest rate on overpaid or abated taxes of 2.5%. Further discussion? In favor? Where? Oh,
Yeah, silly question. How much did you have to pay out last year for the tax abatement of 2.5%? You have a total?
Probably under $100. It's not much.
All right. Who is in favor of 2.5%? Who, if we have to. 2.5, that's passed. Article 51, see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to expend from overlay. We could all explain overlay, but don't ask us to. From overlay, those funds necessary to pay abatements and applicable interest granted during this fiscal year, the select board recommend you authorize them to do so.
So, second.
Move to second. Spend from all. Discussion. Favor. Opposed. Approved. You think taxes, give a call. Ordinances. Article 52. Calling ordinance entitled June 20th, 2026, amendments to section 15T and section 17 of the shoreline zoning ordinance as shown below be enacted. I'm going to read this even though it's somewhat lengthy because ordinances get challenged. And if they get challenged, they spend your legal defense fund. So let's make sure everything is done, so nobody can say, well, the amateur moderator didn't even read the article. So add to section 15T, water quality, non-residential use of any synthetic pesticide as defined in section 17 is prohibited within the limits of Westport Island, except when used by state or federal authorities during a formally declared public health emergency with prior written approval of the Westport Island Select Board. And add to section 17 definition, a synthetic pesticide is any pesticide whose active ingredient is chemically synthesized, including but not limited to glyphosate, for example, Roundup, Rodeo, Accord, neonicotinoids, 2,4-D, chloropyrifos, atrazine, organophosphate, carbamate, pyrethroids, and any EPA restricted use product. This term excludes EPA minimal risk pesticides under 40 CFR 152.25F, organic approved biopesticides, and microbial pesticides. There it is. I won't read that again. I will simply repeat. An ordinance entitled June 20th, 2026 amendments to section 15T and section 17, the shoreland zoning ordinance, which you have before you and which I just read. Somebody give me a motion.
I motion to revise this.
Motion what?
I motion to revise this.
You can't revise it.
Amendment.
It's an ordinance.
Yes, so we asked for that.
Yes. We may submit, not yet. Not yet. I have a motion to allow a member of Kennebec Estuary Land Trust, a non-resident, you're not the only one, unless you're the same one, to speak on this issue. And perhaps to give us some enlightenment that may save us time or answer the questions. Do I have a second for that? Motion and second to allow a non-resident to speak on this issue. Those in favor? Opposed? Will that person identify his or herself? Come forward, you have the floor.
Did we get a motion and second on the article?
What?
Are we in discussion on the article at this point? So we got, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Becky Polak. I'm the Executive Director of the Kennebec Estuary Land Trust. Thank you so much for giving me permission to speak at your town meeting today. I also want to thank the Planning Board and the Select Board for allowing us time at their recent meetings to talk about this proposed ordinance change in this issue. I want to express Health's opposition to the proposed ordinance change as written concerning the prohibition of non-residential use of synthetic pesticides, warrant items 52 and 53. Health strongly encourages residents not to support warrant 52 and 53 as written. We are all here today because we want to uphold the safety and well-being of everyone in Westport, both human and our natural communities. This larger goal is one that Health upholds and is reflected in our mission and service to Westport Island. However, this proposed change does not effectively support this larger common goal, nor does it accomplish what I think is its intention while introducing complex consequences. Health has been a supportive community partner and landowner in Westport for 30 years. We actively manage over 400 acres of wildlife habitat and recreational land. A significant responsibility of this property management is the mitigation, containment, and ideally eradication of invasive plants and pests. These non-native species threaten the ecological integrity of the conserved habitat and impact the uses and enjoyment of public reserves. Health uses a variety of tools to remove invasives, which include manual removal, so pulling them right out of the ground, mechanical treatments, biological controls, and yes, use of pesticides when appropriate. We do agree with one of the rationales behind this proposed ordinance change, that the widespread and untargeted use of pesticides in our society in general has negative consequences to human and environmental health. However, broadly lumped all synthetic pesticides, volumes, formulations, and types of applications together is too simplistic for a complex issue. Health acknowledges that the use of pesticides is a serious step. It comes with risks, and use of these chemicals should not be taken lightly. Therefore, Health has invested resources and time to have a certified and licensed pesticide applicator on our staff, a role that we've had since 2015. We are joined by many conservation organizations and agencies throughout Maine and the US who use pesticides skillfully against the serious onslaught of invasive species that plague our ecosystem. Health uses minimum amounts of pesticides on the appropriate species at the optimal time to meet our management objectives. In the past 3 years, Health has done 2 applications of herbicides on the island for specific invasive plant types, once at Beaver Pond Preserve and once at Seabreeze Preserve. This is targeted and effective while simultaneously reducing the physical disturbance of the habitat in areas where repeated disturbance is detrimental and not best practice. The proposed ordinance change would remove this tool from Health, a licensed applicator, but continue to allow use by the residential public who I'm sure have good intentions, but do not necessarily have access to safer herbicides or training in pesticides application, and therefore still permits the exposure of Westport Island to pesticides, but by predominantly non-licensed applicators using generic, less targeting and more harmful herbicides. This leads to our other concern, the rippling consequences of prohibiting applications by non-residential applicators, in addition to the unfeasibility of enforcement of this type of proposed ordinance change. I can see the intention behind this type of proposal, promoting the well-being and safety of the Westport Island community, now and into the future. But this ordinance change, as written, does not meet this goal, and in fact, hamstrings the very organizations and professionals that are trained to help and support Westport. Health is willing to partner with others in the community to rethink this approach around safeguards of the use of pesticides. We welcome the continued opportunity to have productive discussions and educational opportunities around the topic. We've reached out to the Conservation Commission with ideas to co-sponsor public informational events and lectures with Health and to tap into our network of colleagues and residents. Thank you so much.
Don't go away. Right. For just now, I would accept questions directed to you on the specific topic of applying these agents to land in Westport. It's a narrow construct. Okay, question.
Shelley Dow, I have a question. I'm trying to wrap my mind around this. Does this mean property that I will not be able to hire a landscape contractor to take care of this for me, but I can buy Roundup and just go have at it?
That is my understanding.
No, that's not. And that seems to me that that's how this is written. I can't hire even a licensed person to do this, but I can just do whatever I want.
That is my understanding, no, that's incorrect, as written, it does not affect non-resident, it affects non-residential property. So you read the ordinance, they don't, that's something non-residential.
It does say non-residential use,
I think it's correct.
non-residential, which would be a property owned by the land trust. Where he lives on himself. Turtles. That's turtles. You're the turtles. Yeah.
So the ordinance is specifically directed at Cal. And other entities that own land, which I don't know.
The ordinance does not specify a particular entity it's directed at, it's any non-residential use. That's all it says.
Just, and this is Jeff Travis, Worcester Road, also it would include, woodlots. And, you know, so it's not residential, I and others have, stands of timber on property. And this would preclude us from doing aerial spraying.
Right.
Which I wasn't planning on doing, but that's, so it wasn't just the kelp, the preserves. There's other properties which are not lived on and not residential.
Other questions for her only? Yep.
And Kristen, she said, does Cal work with other, communities that have restricted these pesticides?
Have restricted the pesticides. We work within 9 communities. I'm looking to some board members. I don't think any other towns have this level of restriction.
That's important. You do own properties in other towns, but there's 23 other main towns in the state of Maine that restrict pesticide use. Both like to non-residential, but then also they restrict pesticide use across the board, like Southport. So that is, we would be joining 43 other towns who are restricting it at this level. They don't currently own properties in any of those towns.
Okay, right next to your back row.
So the best from my understanding is to sell invasive species. From my understanding, Roundup and synthetic pesticides also sell native species. They sell invasive species, they sell everything. If your goal is to promote wildlife habitat, wouldn't this also therein poison for wildlife? Because from my understanding, synthetic pesticides can also cause harmful health effects to people, you know, wildlife where being sprayed. We speak to the adverse health effects of the wildlife and the people who are going to be inhaling these of their pesticides as they're walking around the health preserve.
So this is, the use of pesticides is just one tool that we utilize, and we utilize it in a limited fashion. And as I said, we've only done 2 applications in the past 3 years on a very limited basis with targeting specific species. Oftentimes that application is directly on the species that is of concern, and it's not, we're not doing large amounts of aerial spraying.
So can you know what species these are? Because for example, this is not very known to a lot of people, but bigwoods are considered an invasive species compared to sundials. And so are you gonna go around spraying the lupins, or what specifically are you spraying?
So the species that we have targeted most recently are barberry and bittersweet, Japanese knotweed. So widely known invasive species that do have a foothold in specific areas of our preserves that we are specifically targeting.
I personally think it would be better to just go in my hand the old fashioned way and rip it out. Like that's how, you know, a lot of invasive species are targeted versus spraying everything and, you know, everyone in family all these synthetic pesticides.
So we do use manual and mechanical methods that are pulling them out. There are specific cases where we have concentrations of those invasive species on certain parts of our preserves. where this can be an effective addition to using those methods. Again, on a limited basis.
All four rows and everything.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, you've been, I mean,
The base ordinance I have issues with, because it conflates, pesticides and, herbicides, so like, glyphosate is not pesticide, it's a herbicide. Because 2,4-D, it's a herbicide, not a pesticide. So there's a lot of difference between the two, and, you know, if we're writing a pesticide ordinance, they don't belong, it needs to be pesticide, herbicide, or herbicide, but they're not the same. And there's, you know, counted, you can't pesticides make sense, if somebody's trying to be, they're talking to most. Herbicides are limited to, vegetation, so. If we're gonna put this, the pesticide ordinance, it doesn't belong to have herbicide, then you must modify the ordinance to include herbicides.
the language of the ordinance is what it is. You can approve it or you can reject it. Yes, over here.
Yeah, imagine, put out there,
Louder if you can.
Yeah, so, herbicides are in the family of pesticides, just to clarify that. So pesticides include herbicides, that's why the ordinance was written.
It's a common umbrella term to use pesticides that include herbicides.
You and then you.
And this is, Trustee Roach, Mall Road, is this strictly land-based or is there any aquatic applications? And if so, is there risk assessments and mitigation, plans?
So it's predominantly land application, but any pesticides or including herbicides that we use, those formulations are made for wetland application, and that is just an additional step that we take. So regardless of where we are applying them in the preserve, we're using that rate of herbicide.
What would you use to combat algae in a shallow? That's what if it was making paint on unknown.
John Christian, Treeside Drive. One of the items listed was glyphosate, which is, I believe, the active ingredient in Roundup. It is effective, but I would remind you, Agent Orange was also effective. And it is designated as a probable human carcinogen by the World Health Organization. I, the citizen, and the ordinance is about our water. With a limited aquifer. I don't want you spraying on that might reach into my water.
Somebody new, right here and then over there.
If I'm understanding this correctly, you would only be using this kind of last. For half of everything, thousand and the risk of. Myself, put out a. How, where is it, burden?
And one here. Yeah, you, then you.
So with John Murphy, 47 Petty Road, so if I want to be clear about this, would this to include health and somebody else roads on non-residential property? From using their technically beautiful staff to spray, but will being allowed everybody else to know to spray with the
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Are all of your applicators licensed?
We have one applicator on staff who is the licensed individual. It's our preserves manager, Dylan Mulkern.
They have you.
I was gonna say basically the same thing, that we're gonna kill your business by doing 400 acres, but the rest of us is selling you all that stuff to our heart's content. I don't like that. But
I would like to know what the chief thinks.
It's just separate, how much land are we talking is non-residential compared to how much is residential? If we're talking about banning the stuff on 2% of the island. Seems kind of.
I think the island's like 5,643 acres of land mass, and we're talking about 400 acres.
Yeah, so it's, I don't see the bang for the buck.
I like somebody who has a very specific answer. 5,200.
My question is if you're a licensed applicator, there's one. Does that also mean as a supervisor that you can have other people with them? Spraying as well and broadcasting? Because I know, like, as an if you're an electrician and you're a licensed electrician, your helpers can have backpacks worth of, you know, be pulling wire and doing that, and as long as that person is overseeing it, it's under his own license. So when you say that you're targeting, you know, someone that's more negligent, could be just broadcasting the stuff to get rid of the backpack and stuff, and not really targeting what he's supposed to, am I right?
Dylan is the one who is applying, so he is the sole applicator.
New people.
Sure, we did.
Okay.
And Charles, I'll let you know, 191 North End Road. This has been a really tough discussion for people in the business, the grain industry business. I'm a horticulturist. I also am a garden designer. I've been working in the industry since 2002. We've been talking about this kind of stuff since then. And the hardest thing that I find is that it is not necessarily the public land folks who are targeted, who are painting, who are not doing drift in terms of spray, but it's all of us that just don't look at the information that is provided on the little bottle we get from Home Depot. We don't know that it impacts bees and native pollinators. The education portion of this, of my business, is huge. And it's very important for all of us. No one wants to spray the aquifer. None of us want to do harm to our environment. We're really starting to get smart about it. But when we hamstring the professionals who are licensed and who are targeting and painting and doing the hard work, we're forgetting that those invasives we cannot manually remove without disturbance. And disturbance means that we create more and more work. So we really have to think about it. This is not an easy subject, and it's all personal to all of us.
We have met the enemy and he is us. Hogo said that. Is that what Hogo?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to you and then over to you.
John Henderson, and I'm with the planning board. I think we've reached, my opinion, we've reached the point where we've exhausted Kelt's presentation, questions to her, and we're now debating the issue. And I can't thank Kelt enough for being here and all they've done. But only heard one side of the story. There's a young lady here who initiated this effort, has spearheaded this with a tremendous amount of grit, research, and persistence. And I think it's time that we hear from her.
All right. You are temporarily dismissed, but make yourself available.
Don't leave this.
And who is the young lady you wish to speak?
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Susan Gallagher. I live over on Heath Hill Point, and I've been a resident of Westport Island for 35 years now. Oh, okay.
Please.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So I want to begin by explaining why the article is before you today. About a year and a half ago, I learned that synthetic herbicides in the family of pesticides were being used on the Beaver Pond Preserve near my home. So I spoke to Pelt, I was there when they were doing the application. And I had a very good conversation with them, but there was no movement in a direction of not using these herbicides. So I started doing some research on my own. I spent many months reading scientific studies, reviewing regulatory documents, and speaking with people on all sides of the issue. Eventually, I concluded that Westport Island should establish a community standard limiting the use of synthetic pesticides on non-residential lands. This ordinance is not about one organization, one property, or one individual. It applies broadly and equally. It is about deciding what kind of environmental legacy we want to leave for our future generations. As Westport Islanders, we value our wetlands, our streams, wildlife habitat, working waterfront, and the health of our coastal ecosystem. We also have one source of drinking water, and these resources are the foundation of the quality of our life. Synthetic pesticides are designed to kill living organisms. Even when applied according to label directions, they can move beyond their intended target through runoff and drip. The scientific document touting the safety of glyphosate was recently, as a matter of fact, about 3 months ago, it was retracted. And the EPA has been recently given a mandate to reassess the safety of glyphosate. Scientific debate continues regarding the extent of various risks, but there's no debate that these chemicals are biologically active and are intended to alter living systems. The question before us is simple. Should synthetic pesticides be used on non-residential properties? I also want to explain why this ordinance focuses on non-residential properties, since that question is coming up. That was a deliberate choice. We recognize that meaningful change begins with education and public awareness. We can ask our residents to stop and continue allowing non-residential properties to use pesticides. By addressing non-residential use first, we can demonstrate alternatives, gather experience, and encourage a broader community conversation about reducing reliance on synthetic pesticides. And Westport Island would not be alone. Across Maine, as was mentioned, there are dozens of municipalities, including our neighbors over on Southport Island, who have had this very same ordinance in place for years, and they seem to be doing fine with it. Their preserves are managed by the Blue Bay Land Trust, and they do not use synthetic pesticides to manage those land trusts. Furthermore, Portland, South Portland, Hallowell, and Agunquit have recently enacted some of the strongest restrictions on synthetic pesticides in the state. Maine is the leader in the nation in exploring local approaches that reduce reliance on synthetic pesticides. So I am particularly proud to be in Maine because of that. Opponents may tell you that federal and state agencies allow these products to be used. That is true. The local communities routinely adopt standards that are more protective than minimum state or federal requirements when they believe doing so reflects local values. This ordinance is an example of local self-government. It allows Westport residents to decide for themselves how land should be managed within our community. You may also hear that this proposal is unnecessary because current users are acting responsibly. I appreciate that many land managers sincerely believe they are doing the right thing. However, this article is not about questioning anyone's intentions. good intentions and community standards are two different things. The issue before us is whether Westport Island wishes to establish a precautionary approach towards synthetic pesticides on non-residential lands. I believe we should. I believe we can manage invasive species, maintain properties and steward conservation lands while reducing dependence on synthetic chemicals. I believe protecting water quality, wildlife habitat, pollinators, and ecological health is consistent with the values that make Westport Island special. And I believe future generations will thank us for choosing caution when the health of our environment is at stake. This vote is not about what one organization wants or what I want. It's about what kind of stewardship we want for Westport Island. One thing everyone should keep in mind is that pesticides and herbicides are already heavily regulated. They are regulated because they can pose risks to human health, wildlife, water quality, and the environment when misused. I also want to point out that there is significant common ground in this discussion. Health and I agree that these products can be dangerous. We agree that if synthetic pesticides or herbicides are used, they should be used only as a last resort after other options have been considered. We also agree that residents should know when and where these products are being used and should have a voice in discussions about how to reduce their use. Given that common ground, a reasonable approach is to adopt this ordinance and use the next year as an opportunity to learn more. During that time, we can gather information, explore alternative management methods, review best practices for other Maine communities, and evaluate what is working, what is not. This ordinance does not have to be the final word. It can be the beginning of a community-wide education and evaluation process. After a year of experience and additional information, the town can consider whether amendments are appropriate and make decisions based on what we have learned together. And I want to thank Kelt for their willingness to come to the table. I also want to thank any of you willing to help with mitigation so that we can continue to work with Kelt doing the removal of invasive species. And thank you.
All right, you've been standing quite a while.
I agree with everything Susan said, but it's not worded as non-residential properties. It's worded as non-residential use. Which means anybody like Mike that comes and does it with a license. It's not saying this is just how it's saying the companies can't come. The way I'm reading it, doesn't say properties. Am I right?
There's money in the town legal funds, Dan. That's absolutely what I was talking about when I said I was going to read every word, because your interpretation makes sense, but it will hang on the question of non-residential use. By whom, where, I don't know. Not my job, right here.
Hi, Lori Gargano, Sortwell Road. A couple things. One, I've been a little volunteer with Cal over there clearing in the beginning. And they had a big problem with that bittersweet. I imagine you guys can clean it. And that stuff is really nasty. And really hard to eradicate by pulling it up. It's just possible. It seems to breathe when you touch it. Secondly, so I can understand, and I actually trust personally, help using pesticides way more than everybody else in the room. Yeah. So that's my own personal opinion. Also, I think they use Roundup to spray our food in America. Unless you buy organic food, your bread has seen some Roundup. So we can limit them, try to within the bittersweet in their area, there's no saying that it won't end up in your yard too, because the stuff spreads like mad. And cost.
On the board.
Behind.
Are you over here?
Mike, behind.
On the board.
Hi, girl.
Mike, right.
Okay.
There's no.
I'm getting nothing from that part. You're talking about here?
Yeah. He's after Mike.
He's here.
Yeah, and I had it earlier.
Okay, sure.
My license application for saving, qualified arborists. I have a question for the person. My understanding of the Department of Agriculture is that each and every person who is at the end of who is actually doing the application must be a licensed applicator. They cannot just be, well, person sending them out, saying, here's what we want these guys. But each and every individual has to be a licensed applicator. That's so, your group.
Yes, Dylan Mulhern is the one who holds the license and is our applicator, our preserve manager.
So he's the only one doing the application.
He's the only one, yes.
That's what I want.
I have a procedural question. If this ordinance were to pass, there's nothing stopping them from coming for a variance, is that correct? And that would be a way for the town to catalog and report where and when pesticides are being used.
Select board?
Last time.
My question is the procedural one, was that if this ordinance passes as written by Susan, that if there's nothing stopping them to going to the board of appeals for a variance as of any other ordinance. And that would then make sure that any time pesticides are being used by a professional company are cataloged and reported by the town, correct?
They could go in for a variance, but that doesn't guarantee that.
Right, yeah. So they would go to the board of appeals, just like any other ordinance.
But there's a lot happen from that, nobody knows.
The board of appeals would then vote on.
Yeah.
So they go to the board of appeals and the variance process that we have, with so many of our ordinances. And therefore, our town would then be able to know and have like, catalog when and where the pesticides are being used. Because when we're walking around these preserves, as me and my family and my kids do, we don't know when they're applying better seed, when they're applying a Roundup or glyphosate or all of those things, or where the deer don't know. And what are, how, and the hunters don't know, how are we supposed to protect ourselves from this chemical that's being spread in our watershed as a sole form pathogen? We don't know how to trace the chemicals or what they're doing. The very reason why they spray them is because they're hormone inhibitors. They prevent the growth of hormone in plants, and they do the same to humans. I've been in Vietnam. I've seen what communities look like when these things are sprayed. I totally forget, very different. But this is about the future, like hormonal, environmental, our water, and even have know when and where it's been sprayed. So leave it up to board of appeals to make sense of when and where these chemicals should be sprayed, and if it should be sprayed near our water, or if it shouldn't. It should be our town's decision.
I actually think however this passes, that that's a great idea, and, I think we can work with Sally to talk about that tonight, because I do think cataloging, at least let us know whether it's to the board of appeals or just the use. And
And go here, then here, and we'll move on to another.
Just our social word, when this matter came up, and it's been quite some time before the planning board, I supported the objectives, and still support the objectives. Protecting our environment, protecting our water aquifer is significantly important. But from the discussion, I've come to say, maybe the ordinance is not ready, or these proposals are not ready. And here's one thing that was really telling for me. I attended a workshop on shoreline stabilization a week and a half ago. and the materials presented by the Department of Environmental Protection. And there, the question is, how do you protect erosion? And the issues there that you're dealing with are also invasives or other things that would cause erosion problems. With invasives, you want to get out to fully invasive that. And I'm used to also dealing with bittersweet, and you have to get down and pull the roots out, because if you leave any roots left, they'll just come up next year. And I've actually worked also with kelp in terms of doing exactly that, with the manual pulling. But I asked them, the DEP, well, is this what we should need to do for a shoreline? Most, Westport is a lot of shoreline, a lot of the steep shoreline. And if we have an invasive get established, we may lose that, that part of our environmental quality. The DEP said that it depends, and I won't say blanketly what's the right way, the wrong way. They want to see a permit application. But they said there are occasions when they would prefer, they recommend using the pesticides, basically designed, as I believe kelp does, to not be absorbed into the aquifer and to be relatively safe in aquatic environments. Something like that in a shoreline to address something like this. So there are instances where the application of a pesticide, not like I say, not Roundup, but something specially designed for that environment makes sense over the pulling of this. So given that there's an exception, I think that we should take this ordinance proposal, send it back to be reworked. But I think we should hear clearly, one of the key things we need to do in town is educate.
Yeah.
Because we are using products as individuals, as residential property owners, that probably we should not be, but we don't necessarily know them.
Yeah.
So we really need to have some good education on what makes sense.
I move that we stop discussion and move the article. Yes. So,
Second.
third, and what?
I have a motion to close the debate, but there's a second.
Yes.
There's a second. Required 2/3 vote. So, right.
Now that I've been 90 on.
Right. So I will have to count the vote. So when you vote, hold your cards up. It's gonna take a while. All right. If you close the debate, we will, as we did previously, we will immediately go to a vote on the article. If you don't close the debate, we're right back where we are now, which is we will continue to discuss it as long as you want to, or we're all clear? All right. Those wishing to close the debate and vote on the article, show me your card. All right. Put it down. Those opposed closing debate, those who wish to continue the discussion. Hold them up, keep them up. All right. I said I'd have to count. I'm glad I did. For the record, that on Article 52, the motion to close debate was favored by 58 voters and opposed by 13. We are done discussing this article. We will now vote on Article 52.
Procedural question to the moderator. would it be in order to move to table this?
Yeah,
sure. Until next year. I will do that.
It would have been prior to closing the debate. So, yes, your motion would have been 100% proper and allowable 3 minutes ago. Keep that in mind for the next time. All right, Article 52, so an ordinance entitled June 20th, 26th Amendment to Section 15T and Section 17 of the Shoreline zoning ordinance, as shown, be enacted. I read it previously, you all know what you voted on. Those who wish to approve it, show me your cards. Those opposed? It is overwhelmingly defeated. Pretty much following along with the motion to close debate. We move to Article 53. Yeah.
Article 53, remember identical,
It is almost.
almost there. So we don't want to pass the next one. I think we should not pass the next
No.
one. Because what we're trying to do is pass the same amendment to our 2 different land use ordinances. So if you're opposed to the one we just did, you should be opposed to the next one to keep our ordinances consistent. And then we'll revisit them both at the same time.
Okay,
But
you're right, the cursory reading suggests that they're identical. The first one is amendments to shoreline zoning, the second one is amendments to the building code. I believe the text and the purpose are identical. So it's 2 different ordinances that overlap, cover the same, function in different ways. So, in order to deal with it one way or another, since your moderator has a lifelong refusal to accept negative motions, we need a motion on the floor, I'm sure we can get, to approve Article 53 as read and get it seconded. And we can discuss it if you wish.
so
Second.
Okay. Motion is seconded if you wish, and then we'll vote. On Article 53, I have a motion to approve it as read. Now I seek discussion, if any. Yes, sir.
In light of the complexity of this issue, the science, the fact that we don't know how much of the problem is caused by non-residential uses and how much by other uses. And the fact that we don't have a recommendation one way or the other from the select board, I move that we table this issue for 1 year to allow for greater study and perhaps a different proposal. But I'm back to the bottom.
Motion table for 1 year and seconded. You, sir, have a phenomenal memory. I just very recently recommended that.
Thanks for your help.
You were again. All right, a motion. Amendment, really, you table. We have a motion on the floor to approve, now I have a motion to table. So, we need to discuss it. Okay, planning board.
Very briefly, this is a perfect example of why this young lady did what she did, and we should have more of it. And that is that we raised an issue, an important issue with the town, and we've had an excellent debate about it. And as evidence of that debate, Jeff is on the planning board, I'm on the planning board, Dan is on the planning board, and as you can tell, we have a disagreement as to what the outcome should be. But we all agree that you should decide. And you should decide with the most information and the best information available. The reason I would vote in favor of Ralph's motion is because this wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't have had this discussion, but for this person. And what she started shouldn't end here. We should continue this discussion. Health is now engaged. They weren't very engaged when she asked questions, but they are now engaged, and we applaud them. They have come with information and good sense and a willingness to talk more. So I think we should continue that, and I think Ralph's suggestion is an excellent one, and I would encourage everyone, as a resident, I appreciate that to vote in favor. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion to table? Only to table.
Well, I would encourage all of us to go with Ralph's motion to table, but also to make a commitment to be involved when we start looking at this in more specific. So when we have committee meetings and 3 and 4 people are there, it isn't the same as if you have a whole room full. So, no, I like hearing all of the different sides. I'm gonna throw out here too, that the ordinance as written, Susan and I appreciate your efforts all around the board, but I wanna make sure everybody understands that as written, this ordinance was also going to hinder any land management people that are dealing with invasive species of insects. And we've all dealt with the winter moth, the brown tail moth, the Leah delgid that took out all of our hemlock trees. And currently, the emerald ash borer, which has just recently been found in Georgetown, is going to come to Westport Island. And if we leave this as written or move forward as this is intended, we will lose the ability to manage those insects, and that's a very devastating effect on our forests. So I would encourage you all to get educated, stay informed, come to the meetings. You know, it's obviously a great debate that needs to continue. We can come up with a solution that is good for all of us and our water and our trees and our homes. I appreciate everybody that had comments with that too.
You support the motion to table. With the caveat, don't stop thinking about it. It will be back. All right. On the motion to table, I'll say in favor. Opposed. The article is tabled for 1 year. That's the amendment. You now simply must approve it as amended, which is, it's on the floor, you're tabling it for a year. You already did, also ready to favor. So the vote, all right, it is tabled. Now, my warrant seeks to usurp the vast authority of the moderator by telling him he wants to accept the motion to adjourn, which he doesn't know, that being the only business that can legally come before this meeting. Before he departs, not to be seen again, there's one thing left, a question unanswered, that you inadvertently raised. You're all wondering, the young people especially, oh, where did he live? He lived in the great Okefenokee, or possibly, I could be wrong, moderator could be wrong, where he might live in the great Dismal Swamp. I charge you to find him out before we come to this article. Having said that, I will now entertain and beg for motion.
Second.
That's second. And if you favor that motion, rise and leave. Thank you all. Thank you all.